I was in business. I have different worst days.
Do you have one particular one that stands out the most for you?
Yeah, of course. When I lost $1 billion.
Right. How did that come about?
Fantastic.
You don't tend to lose that every day.
No, exactly. Now, when I set about my journey in business, I had two things in mind. Then, the first one was, where there's a will, you could get wherever you wanted to get to. You have to have the killer instinct. So now I decided that now, where there's a will, there's a way. I put that aside. Second thing, I said to myself, I was not going to have friends and enemies. I was going to have only competitors. So that set out my journey.
How did you go from a company that was turning over millions by the month to a company that literally was
Billions,
losing
actually. Billions.
Billions?
Yes, every month.
How did you go from that, though, to actually losing that much? What was the process? What happened? What went wrong?
What went wrong? You know, I told you earlier that you can't compete with destiny.
Yes.
So what's my destiny? To make billions every month and also lose billions. Because God prepares you for a long journey.
Yes.
Which of course you're not in control of. Experience is always the best teacher. Okay, well now I'll tell you, coming back to your question, why I lost billions. Now, I didn't have a structure. The banks, I also put the blame to the banks, on the doorstep of the banks. All they were interested in was the profit. They were not interested in sustainability of the business. They were short-sighted. So all they were doing was throwing money at me. So they never advised me that, listen, you start up a business and God blesses the business from selling diesel in drums, 200 liters, to selling 400,000 tons a month. I probably had about 93% of the business on my fingertips. More or less, I had a monopoly of that business. So, in 2008, the oil prices collapsed. I had over 1 million tons of diesel on the ICs, and the price dropped from $146 to $34. That was one leg of it. Then, of course, the currency was devalued. I had a lot of dollar exposure. So that's why I lost money.
Now, during this time, you had the biggest debt with Ancom, approximately $1.2 billion. What was going through your mind when you realized you accumulated that much debt?
No, well, I had two options. Either to commit suicide, because the richest man in Germany then did commit suicide.
Did you consider it yourself?
Well, no. I just knew it was a phase I had to go through.
Okay.
You say God prepares you for greater things. So I just knew it was the phase I had to go through.
Right.
And of course, experience is the best teacher, so I had to learn my lessons. So I had two options: commit suicide or weather the storm. And I decided to weather the storm.
Now,
I took the bitter pill.
in the face of all of that loss, just to put it into context, we lost about approximately $480 million when the oil prices crashed.
Now that's $1.2 billion.
More.
Well, with interest.
Right, and then that also added on 258 million through Naira devaluation. And then that was further compounded by $320 million due to interest.
You seem to have your facts right.
And then another 160 million.
So in total, I lost $1.2 billion.
Yes. Now, I mean, that looks like money's going from every angle. How did you manage to recover it and actually sustain your business?
No. After I lost the money, something that struck me was, listen, I had to my father has always been one of my role models in life and my mentor. And the first thing was I had to protect his name. He had a policy, honesty was the best policy. So I had to protect that name. And of course, the integrity. So, what option did I have? Like I said earlier, suicide or weather the storm. And I decided to weather the storm. I now looked at the entire scenario. Of course, I put a blame on the banks for not advising me to have a proper structure when the money was rolling in. So I looked at the numbers, and of course, then, like it happened in America, the president of America did bail out a lot of companies. So the government set up AMCON. So my debt was about $1.2 billion. So the banks also had to take a haircut.
Yes.
Of course, good for them for their carelessness and greed. So they took the haircut. So they sold the debt to AMCON for I think about $800 million. So they took the shave of about $400 million. So I was left with the debt of $400 million. So I sat with AMCON and said, listen, AMCON did offer me restructuring. And I insisted no. I didn't want the restructuring. I wanted to pay the debts and move on and start my life again. So they got reputable firms to value my assets. And then I think I had about 100 and, okay, let me just, in the context of properties, in measure it in flats, I think we had about 184 flats, which I gave up. I was the largest investor in Nigeria in the banking sector, which I gave up.
So you gave up a lot of shares in banks?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the major banks in Nigeria. In fact, I remember vividly that the central bank governor then did call me and say, what's the strategy? You have all these shares in all these banks. Then, of course, Africa Finance Corporation was a major shareholder. I was the chairman of Transcorp Hilton. I was the second largest shareholder in Mobile Oil Nigeria Limited, second largest shareholder in Chevron Texaco, Visa Phone, several companies. So I gave up everything. They valued everything, and I decided to give up everything.
So by the time you literally relinquished all of that that you had accumulated, what was you left with?
I was left with my house in Ikoyi, my house in Abuja, my office on Walter Carrington, and my 37% stake in African Petroleum.
And how did you feel at that moment when you've lost over half of everything, all your assets? What was going through your mind? How did you feel?
No, I just had that feeling in me that once God blesses you, He never takes away His blessings.
You have all learned from the story of Otedola how he lost it all and he was still able to fall back on his real estate. If you lost it all today, what will you fall back on? Can you fall back on your crypto, your shares? Anything can happen to your crypto, anything can happen to your shares, but your properties, it will always save you in those days when all hopes are gone. Start your journey in real estate investment today and secure your journey towards financial freedom. Put an end to generational cycles of failures and start working for generational wealth. Real estate is the only answer. Call the contact showing on your screen and let's start with your real estate investment goals. Thank you.